The Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Western Hemisphere, Transnational Crime, Civilian Security, Democracy, Human Rights, and Global Women's Issues will come to order. It's a pleasure to welcome our distinguished panel of government witnesses and my colleagues. The focus of today's hearing is on state and USAID's budget priorities for the Western Hemisphere and how the budget can best complement and support U.S. interests and policy goals for this very, very important region. I want to thank Senator Rubio and his team for their help framing up this hearing. I'm proud of the work we've done on the region thus far during our time in the Senate together. We've kind of been trading chair and ranking back and forth, but we've been good partners, whatever the lineup. The U.S. and our 34 neighbors in the hemisphere share deep ties and a close history. Our collective prosperity and security are deeply intertwined. The U.S. people-to-people ties with the Western Hemisphere are extraordinarily robust, with proud diaspora communities in Virginia, Florida, all of our states, all across the country. And in this region, we see a mutual commitment to democracy and free markets. We also see evidence of backsliding in areas where we have to pay special attention. The economic ties in this hemisphere are similarly deep. During the first 6 months of 2022, U.S. trade in goods with the region totaled $568 billion. I'm often kind of poking our statisticians to say trade in goods is one thing, but trade in services is often growing much faster, and we don't necessarily capture that, and we need to. This trade in goods has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, which is really important. But despite that, the U.S. and the region as a whole are confronting a multitude of challenges across the hemisphere, and these are the challenges that a robust budget should be prioritized to address. Despite being home to some of the world's most vibrant and active democracies, the hemisphere has also experienced, by most metrics, the sharpest decline in its democratic institutions of any region in the 21st century. This includes worsening repression in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, the collapse of Haiti's government, political violence in Ecuador, instability in Peru. The erosion of democracy and surge in political unrest leads to an increase in irregular migration flows. It creates opportunities for encroachment by foreign adversaries such as the People's Republic of China, which exploits corruption and weak institutions to its advantage. It benefits cartels who further weaken and corrupt state institutions. The reach of narco-trafficking networks is expanding. Fentanyl trafficking conducted by professional smugglers via Mexico to the United States has taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans through fatal overdoses, leading the Senate in the recently passed National Defense Authorizing Act to declare the fentanyl crisis a national security emergency. The COVID-19 pandemic also swept away more than a decade of development gains, and it's led to increases in food insecurity and humanitarian challenges such as human trafficking and increases in poverty. So the U.S. assistance to the region is vital in shoring up U.S. interests and democratic principles, as well as the overall stability of the region in the face of these challenges. Every crisis faced by the region and its people deeply and directly impacts the United States, so our wise use of U.S. dollars to promote stability is not just a benefit to others, it's a benefit to American citizens. The region faces challenges, but sometimes we focus only on challenges and we neglect to talk about bright spots, and we should always talk about bright spots. Panama, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic have established the Alliance for Development and Democracy. Ecuador's previous government was part of that. There's a question about Ecuador's commitment going forward, but at least these three nations in establishing the alliance have reaffirmed their support for strengthening of democratic institutions and promoting economic prosperity in their nations. While the Venezuelan crisis is one of the world's most pressing humanitarian emergencies, neighboring countries like Colombia and Peru, Chile have stepped up and generously hosted millions of Venezuelans who have fled their home country. That has to be acknowledged and appreciated. And in the Caribbean, the vast majority of countries remain robust democracies and close U.S. partners. As our neighbors face difficult crises, the U.S. can't stand on the sidelines. We owe to our partners and allies, to our friends and families in the region, to take initiative and accountability in addressing these challenges. I've maintained since joining this committee when I came to the Senate in 2013 that we should pay more attention to the Americas, not less, and that if we did, it would have tremendous benefit not only for the region but for us. Now, we're in a tough fiscal environment. We're in the middle of quite a budgetary discussion right now, so it's important to ensure that precious taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely, that they're advancing U.S. values and interests, and I'm interested in hearing from all of our esteemed witnesses today about how the Department of State and the USAID are acting on administration priorities for the region and how funding will be targeted to help friends in the hemisphere tackle shared challenges. Let me now turn it over to our ranking member, Senator Rubio, for his remarks before I introduce the panel.
Thank you, and thanks for holding this hearing, and thank you all for coming and for your service.